you. I am your host, Cameron Gilmore, and we are starting off 2023 with an absolute banger. Let's jump right in. Here is my interview with Pascal Bachmann.
In an orphanage in Switzerland. My parents didn't have it so well with each other, so I drift away pretty soon and did a lot of things I wouldn't do today when I look back. I think we're going to talk about a few things, what I mean by that. And then I had a lot of, I started to have a lot of interest in sports. I played soccer, I played baseball, I started with martial arts, and I did good in all of those things. And I just felt like I need to pick something to get really good at it, and not just do everything a little bit and be good everywhere a little bit. I knew back then, if you really want to nail it somewhere, you need to focus. And my choice was martial art based on my childhood. I liked to punch some people and to have it done my way. And I pretty much fight my way through everywhere I could, because I didn't have parents that teach me how to do others. So I was in a space of like getting respect from other people around me. And this is how I felt I get it, by marking the strong guy that I thought I was back then, and just did anything or everything the way I felt I wanted to be done like this. But I went on and did what I did for years. Bad at school, didn't really pay a lot of attention to the teachers, was a rebel. I broke into buildings, I dealt with drugs and cocaine and all that stuff, until that one day when I saw a Bruce Lee movie, and I thought, this guy's kind of cool. And so I was searching around, where can I learn martial arts, really, like the real stuff, not like the people who just open something and start. So I found that Taekwondo master back then, who was a Vietnam veteran. He was serving during the Vietnam. He was world champion in different disciplines. And I remember going in there and the discipline and everything, I just felt in love with it right away. So I started to join there, worked out every day. I stopped playing soccer, I stopped playing baseball, just focused there, became a gentleman, learned how to live life, learn how to be a goal getter, and really develop the discipline in different areas. And then I wanted to be world champion in this area. Trained hard, had an accident in Thailand when I was preparing. My career was gone, and I started to become an entrepreneur based on my journey in different areas. Went back to Switzerland, built a business. You mentioned it before. The following 20 years, I built 7 businesses in 3 different industries, made a lot of money, had a lot of success, but also had failures that I'm grateful for today. But today, I live in the US, have my wife on my side, 2 kids, one live in Switzerland, one live in Thailand. Both are happy. And I, a few years ago, rebuilt or restarted my business, and told myself, live your passion every single day in what you do, and impact as many people as you can from your true values, from who you truly are, not just for money, but with a deeper purpose. And this is what I do today with Strategy Achievers, the core 4, having impact in different areas, and I love it.
Oh, guys, I told you to buckle in. This is the one you're going to just eliminate all outside distractions and just focus on this. To give you a little more clarity on the how people see Pascal, in 2021, the New York Finance of top 15 entrepreneurs that you must follow, Pascal was listed as one of the top 15 influencers that you need to follow. Okay. This line in the article I really love for you to expound upon, Pascal. It says his road to success was not an easy one. After going through a $15 million bankruptcy while trying to support his family, he hit rock bottom. Here's what you alluded to this, so would love for you to expand on this. The two-part question. First is, looking back at that experience for you, what was your mindset as you were going through this bankruptcy? And then the second part was, how did you not allow that experience to completely shut you down as an individual? Before we get started, I need to give a shout out to my biggest sponsor, Warrior Energy Drink. The reason why we partnered together is because we have the same mindset, with the same drive. We're for the people, we're about the people. Look, Warrior Energy Drink has 0 sugar options, and they got water as well. Low calories, great taste, very affordable, no crash, big energy fast, high in B vitamins, awesome design, culture design, 160 milligrams of caffeine. Other energy drinks have way too much, and they're always giving it back to their community. They're paying it forward. Partner with them, guys. Click the link below. Go get yourself your own Warrior Energy Drink and go crush today.
Good question, because when you're in that state, I believe you really experience who you truly are. Like, we all imagine what I would do. We all give advice, and you could and should, and I would. And, once you hit, you figure out who you truly are. And me back then, to answer your first question, is I just ask myself, what do I do next? I mean, I was like, and that's something, that article or that quote that you just mentioned didn't say. I lost everything I had within 3 months. So it was not just the bankruptcy. I built businesses. We made more than 20 million. I had all that stuff, and I had different centers. I had franchise with 13 branches. I had all that stuff. And within 3 months, I not just had an 8-figure bankruptcy, I also had a personal bankruptcy. I lost all my retirement money and all my real estate within 3 months, everything gone. And I had 2 little kids. I was married, and I just thought, like, okay, what do you do next? And for me, it stuff like this just don't come from today to tomorrow. You kind of know what's going on. You see, damn, I can't pay the rent anymore. I need to raise some money. I had some people who supported me. And I was, the reason actually why I had the bankruptcy is because I did some strategic mistakes back then. I signed contracts based on a commitment that was not signed. It was not sealed. And that gentleman back then, and that's a hard one. I don't know if I told that before on camera. I had, like, that one investor. I looked for an investor in Switzerland back then who just gave me $500,000 for the concept that I had, because I had exclusive rights for some devices from the US for Europe. Mm-hmm. And I write a business plan and send it to them and say, hey, what do you think? Can you finance that? And they wrote me back and say, Mr. Bachmann, you can't play a one-game show with that concept. You need to build a franchise. We can give you 15 or 20 millions, but not 500,000. You can't play that alone. It's too big, too much value that you have. Come in and we talk about it. So I went there, and then I talked about I don't remember, 25 to 30 investors all over Europe. I was traveling and talked to them, and we planned to build a franchise in whole, like, Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. I finally got the commitment from someone who I know, if that guy say yes, it's gonna be a closed deal, because he invested more than 50 times through that organization. And the biggest investment he did was $960 million. So 20 millions was a piece of cake for him. And he just liked me. We had this conversation. And then what happened is, like, handshake, we're going to do that. We had 2-3 conversation. I was sure. The guy said, yes, it's a deal. So I signed some other contracts on the side because I had pressure back then. And then tomorrow I supposed to go sign the official contract. So I made sure he's ready and prepared. I called him the day before, nobody picked up. And the same evening, his wife write me an email and say, "Dear Mr. Bachmann, I'm sorry to tell you that my husband passed away yesterday night." And that was for me, now looking back, I remember I was in a position like, what makes me more sad now? Losing everything I have, or the death of a person that I don't know, but promised to invest? And like I said, my first thought and mindset was like, what do you do now? I knew it gonna end not well. And I decided to just do nothing for a few weeks and just rethink, how do I go from here? How do I go from here? What do I do? And then to go into your next question, which I think, what was it like? What allows me to experience? Actually, I can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, no,
Oh, there
it's
you go.
good.
So how did you not allow that experience? Look, you had two young kids, you were just married, you had the word of a gentleman, he passes away, you just signed a contract. Like, how did you not let that experience completely shut you down as an individual and as a father?
Yeah. The thing was, what I decided to first, I didn't tell anyone. Like my family didn't know. They didn't know what's gonna happen, and the kids too. I always try to be the dad and not let them feel anything like that. But what I decided to do is I talked to my doctor back then. He's a really cool dude. We met at the gym, and he's the sunny boy, Spanish looking, like the good looking dude, and he was the doctor and specialized in sport medicine. And so I had a really good connection with him, and just talked with him about it and say, hey, I also had an affair back then. I think we're going to talk or dive into that a little bit later, but I went to him and say, hey, I feel like my life is screwed. I completely screwed everything up. I just lost my business. I lost like everything I have, the land, the real estate, like my retirement money, everything is gone. Beside that, I have two little kids. I have an affair. I'm cheating on my wife. Like, I'm screwed. Like, I just wanted to talk to someone who's neutral. And he asked me some questions, and we went back and forth, and he came to the conclusion and told me, hey, I know you're not crazy, but you should definitely go talk to a psychiatrist, someone who is neutral, someone with experience on how to guide you, because that stuff is heavy. So he scheduled an appointment with one of his colleagues. I went there, and three appointments later, I went back to my doctor and say, hey, Manuel, I don't need to go there anymore. And he was confused and said, like, what happened? Why? So because I'm fascinating the guy. Like, what do you mean? So, like, he's the psychiatrist. He asked me questions, and he does the typical stuff, put me on the board, and can you please write down all your depth and the numbers and all that, and then calculating, do the math, and now look at the number, and how does that make you feel? This kind of stuff and conversation. And I told him, I don't feel anything. And he looked at me, the psychiatrist, and said, what do you mean you don't feel anything? I think, like, like these people wanted to earn money with me. They had contracts with me, and they also knew the worst case. The worst case is you don't get your money back. So the bank loaned me stuff, and I had a rent contract signed for like 5 years, and they all knew that a worst case scenario is always part of a contract, and they wanted to earn money. Now they didn't. Like, why should I feel guilty and bad for them? And for me, I know, like, for me to answer that question straightforward is, I trusted and I know. I trusted and I know. deep within me. So the psychiatrist asked me or told me, Mr. Bachmann, I have people here with not even 20% of your problems. And they come here, they cry, they turn into drugs, they start drinking alcohol, they want to commit suicide. I have them all here. But what you have right now, and the weird thing is, you sit in the chair, you talk to me, you look in my face, you smile, and the weird thing is, I believe you. How do you do that? And I just told him, well, I don't do anything. I just know it will get better. I know it is my responsibility to change and to make things happen. And I just trust in God that I have whatever I need to live and survive. I mean, I still have an apartment. I still healthy. I still have the energy and the power to do and take the next steps. And that's just something that I focused, that I have within me, instead of focusing on the external things that everybody make me believe it is most important in life, which it is not.
Oh my gosh. Power, knowledge, wisdom. I mean, listen to, let's just replay what he was just saying. $15 million gone. A handshake that somebody passed away. All of this external forces, people saying you owe me money, 2 young kids, a wife, an affair. And deep down, he knew that it was going to be okay. He knew that he could trust not just everything around it, but just he was built for these experiences. Some were self-inflicted, some were not self-inflicted. And I think what you said towards the end was so spot on, that all of us can relate to, which is we try. And just because we try something that doesn't work out 100%, 90%, not even 1%, doesn't mean you stop trying. Doesn't mean you just throw up and go, well, I guess I wasn't built for it. I'm sure you heard plenty of people chirping at you saying, look, I told you this wasn't going to work. You're not built for this. Go get a regular job. Go do something else that can provide and not just take massive risks. I think about entrepreneurs, right? And I'm referring to those that are young in business, right? 95% of startups that we hear all the time fail within the first 3 years, right? So let me ask you this question. How did you not let this little setback, and I use that loosely, I mean a $15 million setback, lose everything, real estate, homes, cars, the whole 9 yards. It's a big setback. But how did you not allow this little bump in the road deter you from your entrepreneurial dreams?
For me, it was always, and you mentioned that before, it's funny, I had actually a conversation this morning with my wife on our daily morning walk. For me, I knew back then already that wisdom comes from experience, and experience is often a result of lack of wisdom. And this is just what I needed to go through in order to learn. And the conversation we had in the morning, we are in fall right now, and I was talking to my wife when we had that walk, and said, see, life and all the experience that we have, it's actually exactly like the seasons. This is life in general. An apple tree, for example, need to go through many falls and leave all the leaves before it actually can bear fruits. There's not a seed that grows and then you have apples on a mini tree. Doesn't work like this. It grows. The winter comes, the different season come, it gets hauled, it's hauled. And with experience and years on how to grow and navigate through life, they finally and eventually will bear fruits that we can enjoy. And same thing with life. I just knew that after winter, spring will come. It's a matter of time. It's not a matter if yes or not. It's a matter of time. And I just focus on that. And I knew back then, like, if there are downs, there are ups, and it is on me. And what I learned through that experience, it's and you mentioned that also a minute ago, it's the belief, like, and this is the answer to your question. It's just really what our belief is. What is our core belief? I remember many people who came visit me in my business who said, you are always so lucky with you everything that you touch works. And how do you do that? And my answer was always like, I just don't allow failure to happen based on my belief. If I start something and I do something, my mindset is like, it cannot fail. I do not let it happen. I believe so much in what I do. And then everything that faces me on my journey is just another situation that needs another decision. And this is how I go through life. And that's why I believe I am where I am, just not giving up. Doesn't matter what it is.
Ah, gosh. Guys, go back and replay. First off, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or any of those streamings, you go back, go to YouTube, go back, rewind it about 3 minutes and watch Pascal, watch him just get into this zone, right? You hear a lot about the zone of genius, right? Gay Hendricks talks about it in The Big Leap. Gets into the zone of genius. When I asked him that question, I instantly saw his entire energy and focus shift because he believes, sold out in his passion and his purpose. He has figured out what his true calling in this life is. And when you are so ingrained with that, nothing can stop you. It just seems like everybody says, it always just works. You're right, it just works because I just believe it. And it's infectious. When you are so sold out on what your belief is, you just attract those people all the time. Man, that is golden nuggets, people. If you could give two bits of advice to somebody, any specifically to men, right? We also talk men that has said, if I do it, I'm going to fail. But if I don't do it, I'll never know. What two things would you give somebody who has that thought process?
If they have the thought process of,
if I do it, I might fail. But if I don't do it, I'll never know.
It's basically making a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's making a choice, and I think the biggest poison is regret. The biggest poison is regret. And by the way, there are studies that prove that people on the deathbed ask the question, what would you do different in your life? And what is it that doesn't fulfill you, that you just feel like I missed it? And the number one answer is, I didn't do enough what I actually wanted to do, and I regret it. And that's super toxic. And that's one of the advice I will give. If you have an idea that comes to you, not you trying to make money, if you have an idea that comes to you, meaning you are in spirit, you get inspired by something, you are in spirit, this is the moment that you need to realize, hey, something is happening here. Something just came along my way. Pick it up, observe. It can't be the wrong decision. It's not possible. What turns out as a failure, if in case, is your human brain listening to everything around you instead of staying in spirit and actually follow the voice. And so I believe if you have that thoughts, it's just like, go back to the source. When did this idea appear? How did it make me feel? How is it in line with my values? How would it make me feel if I would achieve that goal? And if the feeling is good, just go for it. But go for it with a strategy.
We could stop and call it a day. We have so much more to unpack. this layer of who Mr. Pascal Bachmann is. Phenomenal up to this point. I want to bring this up because trials in your life prepare you for the blessings that are to come. It is your future self. I preach this a lot. Your future self pulling you, right? Pulling you, and they're the one that's championing the biggest one. Look, Pascal was built for this. Okay. He had been through serious hard times before he even became, quote unquote, an adult, right? An adult by age, not by necessarily where we are mentally. Going through an orphanage is rough. And I've never been through one. My dad, you know, he was in a boarding school growing up. So he told me a lot about what that part was like here in the US. So help me understand, or help us understand, as an orphan, especially growing up in Switzerland, what was the mental and emotional trial for you that you had to face on a day in and day out base?
Specifically being in the orphanage,
Mm-hmm.
it was just a lot of rules. It was a lot of rules that I didn't want to follow. I couldn't be me. And if I decided to be me anyway, I got punished, which created distance. And I became that rebel because I just didn't allow this to happen. And for me, it was, it was difficult because I realized that I'm craving for attention. And like I mentioned before, I started to do things like I started to steal stuff. I started to lie. I started to kind of arrange things that I stood in the good light in different areas. And it, at the same time, I felt like I'm doing things that doesn't make me feel good, but I did it anyway. And for me, it was a difficult time because I felt like I'm alone. I had two stepbrothers, but I was alone, and I didn't care about anything and everybody but myself. And subconsciously, I knew I tried to get this attention that I didn't have. And so it was a difficult time, but again, it's part of who I am today when I reflect. And I think this is the most important thing. There should be a time in life where we start to reflect and try to understand what happened and why we did what we did in the past, to realize that it needed to be like this in order for us to understand.
That the mindset of this happened, you have a great spin on this. So I'm going to say this, and I want you to add your spin. The mindset of this happened not to me, but for me. You have a little different take on it. What does that take?
Yeah, and I agreed to that for years. When I remember hear Tony Robbins and like, remember, nothing happened to you, everything happened for you. And I think like, yeah, that's cool, that's nice. And with the years and self-development and experiences, I added something, which is, I don't believe it happened to you. I believe it happened for you, but maybe it even happened through you. Today, I believe that everything that or all of us, everything that we experience in the outer world, in life, is a reflection of our inner state of being. Whatever we feel, however we feel, the perception that we have, the beliefs that we have regarding anything is what we will face in life. If I have to believe I'm not good enough, I can't do that, that's probably what life throws back to me as an opportunity to overcome that and to learn. If I believe like all rich people are bad and money is the root of all evil and rich people have a bad character or it destroys the character, I'm probably never going to have money, because my subconscious me protects me from becoming rich. Because if I do, I will have a bad character and all that stuff that we don't want. So it's a protection mechanisms, and it goes, it has a lot to do with limiting beliefs and negative emotions and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why I say that often it happened through me, to really take the self-responsibility, not to finger point, but to stand up and say, okay, how do I respond to that situation? What is in it for me to learn? And that's another thing. Like, so many people say, what is in it for me is something that allows you to express who you are, right? And that's why I think, especially in business and life, that's a question that we should ask ourselves more than any other question, because that's what's coming back to us.
Bro, that is so good. Let me ask this. Hey, everybody, I want to take this quick second here. A lot of you have asked me, what journal do I use? My family use? Simple, this journal right here. See, my buddy Craig Smith has spent years and years developing a journal that takes everything that's up in here and puts it on paper so we can be edified and grow. So if you don't know what to write about, which oftentimes happens, he gives you ideas. And if you want power statements, things that say, I am this, he gives you those ideas. Now, when you look at on one page, it says, this is what I'm accomplished. This is what I am statements. And there's a quote every single day that you get to write on and focus on. The second page is write your daily thoughts, get it out of your head, put it on paper to be the best version of yourself. The link's down below. Listen, I get no money for this. It's just, I believe in this journal. I love this journal. It's changed my life, my family's life. And if you want, it'll change your life as well. We all have demons. You talk about how you even said something a little bit ago about how we should understand kind of the past and understand how we went through that mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, however you want to put it. How have you battled through those demons that have plagued you for so many years? I mean, obviously you're in a space now where you can recognize when those heads start popping up, right? You can recognize the self-doubt. You can recognize and look, we all go through it. What did you do, or how have you been able to keep all of those demons, those heads? How do you keep them in a space where, if A and B, it will equal C? How do you keep all of that at where you can function and it just doesn't play a part in your life anymore?
Today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, and I think that's an important point. It's good that we talk about that, because often we are blinded by what we see in social media. We see the success, we hear about the money stories, we see the cars, the houses, and all that stuff. But all these people, including me, there's a life behind that. And I wake up sometimes with anxiety. I wake up with not want to do what I know I need to do in order to achieve my goals. Don't want to go to the gym, want to eat trash, I call it, instead of healthy food. Want to do all the things that I know doesn't bring me to my goals. And in different areas in life, these demons, they show up. And for me, it's really, I started to develop a strategy, and that's why the company I own now, it's called Strategy Achievers, because I believe we need a strategy in business and life. And we also need to realize that business is just part of life. So we have a manual for pretty much everything that exists that we buy, but for life. And this is what I started to develop for myself, to really pull up a journal, a piece of paper, and sit down and really think and listen, and not just like I write down real quick something. No, I took a day off. I go and I think, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Like the question of purpose, like everybody's talking about the purpose, but who of us or your listeners, or even you and me, how many times did we actually really, really, really take the time and think deeper and deeper and ask what the question why every time when we have an answer? Like if we feel like we have an answer, but why, to really go deeper and deeper in our subconscious mind to bring that truth, the essence out of us, to find clarity. And this is what I did and decided to do in all areas of life, not just for business, not just for my relationships, not just for my health, but for everything. What do I want to achieve? Why do I believe I want to achieve it? How can I achieve it if I'm clear on it? And again, vision is also such a word. Everybody's talking about the vision, and it sounds so good. And to have a vision statement on a paper and then it's done. How much do you live that vision? How clear is that picture of your vision? How many times do you close your eyes and actually spend time in that future? How does it look like? How does it feel like? How much time do you spend in that future as already achieved? And then the next step is, how do I get there? The strategy, it's basically the mission, right? Am I truly on mission with how I think, act, and feel every single day, with all the decisions that I have to make during a day? Because to be on mission, it's basically nothing more than my identity in action. This is when I am on mission. But that comes with a challenge. Who am I? My identity. I'm not Pascal Bachmann, the entrepreneur. Who am I? If I take all that stuff away, my family, my identity, my weight, my look, my body, like, what is there left? So to have clarity on that identity, on the vision, to be on mission, and really navigate through life with that manual that all of us can create in all areas of life, makes it easy for me to overcome these demons, because I always know I just need to train one reflex. Every time something pop up, focus on the plan. I don't need to think. I just need to create that one habit. Every time I feel I go off-road or something comes, I just need to realize that. I need to become an observer. Once I realize it, boom, back to the plan. Don't even think, just look, because it's prepared. I open my agenda. What is on there? Okay, just do it. So this is a long answer to a short question.
No. Because my brain just went into this state of receiving, right, and clarity. I have been preaching one tip that I did when I built a company from 2020 to 2022 is when we would sit down with these young individuals, young men, young women, and they were never sold in their life. And we would sit down and say, all right, what trip do you want to take? What vacation do you want to go on? And oh, I would love to go here. When you build that plan, or when you build that mindset, you need to build it as if you've already done that. July 10th through July 20th, I remember going to Bali. I remember staying at this place. We stayed at this room. We eating at this food every night. We went to this is what the foods. So you start to talk about the smells, the taste, the sound. You are already putting yourself in that space that you've already been there. Yet it could be 6 months away, 8 months, a year away, but you are already in that space, and you are pulling that to your present self and saying, I've already been there. Like I could already, it's already happened. Pascal just went through the entire exercise with you and said, this is what you need to do. It almost feels liberating that I have somebody who has done a ton more than I have, but also dummies it down so simplistic that it's just take it one at a time. Like we have all these manuals, like you said, we don't have manuals about our life. Let's write a manual about our life. Guys, that was some of the best training that you are ever going to get to a very short question for a very even shorter answer. You'll just get lost in what he says, because don't take just my word. Listen, markets.business insider, you were doing an interview and you said this point, and I need to read this quote because I think it is, I mean, it basically explains what you were saying. It says, quote, I see the need for personal development. There are so many things going on globally. A large portion of our society proves that they cannot handle the challenges. They need coaches, leaders who empower and educate them on how to master whatever it is. I learned early that if you want your business to grow, you as a person need to grow. This is profound. This is powerful. This is a statement that is universal. How, let me ask you this, Pascal, because you've been all over the world and globally and spoke to thousands and thousands of people and done interviews. How is this need that you are seeing globally?
I remember that when they was asking me, and we were even talking about if they can publish that like that. And I say, yes, you will, because this is exactly what I mean. And it was kind of like people gonna not like you, or part of the people not gonna like you because it's a bold, hard statement. And I think, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Today's society worldwide proves, in my opinion, from my perception, that they need leaders. They need real leaders. And why? And that sounds hard to many. I believe the biggest part of today's society don't think. They don't think. They follow. They see, they hear, they listen, they follow. And past events prove it. Like, are we really at the place that we do not use our own brain to make decisions based on our health, based on our future, based on what we want for our kids, for our life? Are we really at that place that we are not able to make these decisions or tell anybody else other than us that we are not able to make these decisions? And this is, by the way, why I decided to write the book called Irresponsible Society. Again, provocative, on purpose. It is the dedication. They asked me, who do you dedicate the book for? My answer was to the society of planet Earth. It's a wake-up call, because we need to stop judging. It was never Obama. It was never Trump. It's not Biden. It's you and me every single day in every area of life. Michael Jackson said it perfectly in one of his songs, start with the man in the mirror. It's you and me and everybody else. And if we believe that someone else need to be the change, or need to do the change, or need to do anything, we need to stop and say, I need to be the change. I can. And the reason why I said that back then was because because so many people follow and don't think and just do what other people tell them to do. They need true leaders, not leaders who lead them into the wrong direction, but true leaders who teach the truth, who tell them, why do you just listen to me? You have something called a brain between your temples here. This is how you use it. And it is important because it is about today and the next generation. And we have these cycles. We have hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create often weak men. And weak men, again, create hard times. And this is a cycle that is repeating and repeating and repeating. And I think we can break that if we start taking the self-responsibility and we make our own research. We don't believe blindly. We make and learn how to make decisions. Everything we know today come from someone who think they know based on someone who thought they know. How do we know that this is the truth? Like, we assume that everything that we know is how it is. The world is round. The world is flat. We have so and so many billion people on the planet. Who count them? How do we know that this is the truth? But everybody believes it. Someone says something, these so-called authorities say something, and we believe it. But who actually take the self-responsibility and say, hey, hold on, that doesn't make sense. Let me do my own research. Based on what I found, I start to create my own belief. And based on my belief, I make decisions. And based on decisions, I stand up and take the self-responsibility to stand up for what I believe. And that's why I said what I said back then.
That's it. Oh,
Yeah.
It's just a breath of fresh air. Really, it is, because we're learning from an individual who has spent the better half of his life arriving to the space where he knew he was going to be, called it into existence years ago, decades ago, and now is in a space where he says, of everything that I have learned, if it is to be, it's up to me. If I want change, I have to change. If I want to move and progress forward as a man, as a wife, a woman, as a wife, as a husband, as a brother, a sister, whatever, I have to inject my own change. I have to be the one that stands up and says, I take accountability, responsibility. I take everything that was a part, and through me, there's going to be massive change.
Right. I love that. I love that, because even in business, and you said it perfectly, it applies to all areas of life, everywhere, relationship, family, like everywhere, with my health. Like, so many times I have this discussion and people ask, like, yeah, well, by the way, I'm in the middle of a challenge. I don't know if I told you, like, I ate myself up to 215 pounds on purpose for the 15th time. I did that like in 20 years, 15 times. I eat myself fat with M&Ms and other stuff to demonstrate how easy it actually is to get lean and be like 170, 175 pounds. So I started, I think I'm on day 82 or something, from 215. Right now, I lost about 25 pounds. By the end of December, I'm gonna probably be around 30 stable. And then I work on shaping the body and get lean down to 4-5% body fat. I made a Facebook challenge that people actually can see. And it all comes down to one thing. You need to know what to do. You need to have the discipline to do it. And you need to show up every single day. Commit to that, and you will achieve anything in business and life. And this is something that we do in business, like the core four. You mentioned that in the introduction, which is all about health, mind, harmony, and wealth. There is a point in time in that program with my entrepreneurs that I'm working with, when they ask, like, how do I leverage all the PR that you do, guys, for me? How do I turn this into a multi-million-dollar business? How do I reach the next level in business? If you want to go from 5 to 6, from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8, it doesn't matter. It's always the same thing. My answer is always, you need to become the person who's able to achieve the next level. So it is you who need to change. It's not the best system. the better system. It's not the better employee. It's you. You need to show up as a different person in order to elevate your business and bring it to the next level. So, and what does that has to do with me other than business? I say it again, business is just part of life. I need to become healthier, because then I will be able to put in more energy, more strength, physically and mentally. If I'm healthy, I show up as a stronger leader. And then the second one is mind, which is I need to be more clear on my purpose, ID, vision, mission. Then harmony, it's I need to create that harmony in my life that allows me to be in peace, to be in the moment, to really express my true self in a way that it impacts the business the way I want. So it's everywhere the same thing all the time, and that's part of the statement, and I believe this is something we all need to learn, and often we need to learn it through pain, through failure. So many times I have in my practice that I had, we treated more than 20,000 people, and they came in like they were all rich. They all had money and cars and houses, and they all come in broke, like physical or mental diseases. And I always ask myself, like, aren't you supposed to be happy and fulfilled? You live your passion. Like, why are you guys broke? Like, all problems. And what I found was that 95% of all the people that came in came with self-inflicted civilization diseases. Problems that were the result of living a lifestyle that consciously or subconsciously created that disease. And we even went one step further and made a study on that, and we realized that the main thing that created these diseases in general was people getting up in the morning and they live against their core values every single day. They work for a boss 15 years that they never liked. They live in a relationship 10 years where they were not happy. So all this anger, frustration, greediness, fear, anxiety created cancer, strokes, heart diseases. And that's why I actually switched from prevention into prevention. How can I prevent people from happening or experiencing stuff like this? And it applies to all areas of life. And that's, again, it's our responsibility to take action.
Oh my gosh. This is a master upon master class. This is the ability to really understand. Guys, do you understand? This is about taking control of your life, saying, I'm going to live. Like if you're not saying, look, I'm not saying that if you've been in a job for 10 years and 15 years, great. But if you're not living, if the job controls you and you don't control it, you're just dead. You literally have surrendered your whole self and said, I'm going to go to work for 40 hours a week for 40 years of my life. And then I will start because I'll be able to retire. Pascal is saying you find your passion, let it go through you. Oftentimes it's through failures. So what? So what? You started a company and it failed. So what? You tried something and you failed. So what? People around you made fun of you. So what? Like, are we so yellow back that we can't, if we fail at something and somebody makes fun of us, we just give up? Like, listen to what he's saying. He mentors people that are multi-millionaires, cars, houses, travel around the world, do fun things, but they're broke mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically broke. Guys, I mean, this part of this is amazing. Absolutely could not be even so humbled to have him on to share and impart this wisdom. I want because we could keep going these levels. I love the levels deeper and deeper, because to know one's passion, you have to keep going deeper and ask those questions. Why? Why? What about this? Why? I'm going to do this. Why? Like, it's all about what is that central core part, and to follow it. If you go after something because you want the money, you will fail, and everybody around you will see it. If you go after something because it's a passion and it's infectious, people will just naturally come to you. I absolutely love that point that you just made. 100% could not be. So, as you can't tell, I mean, I'm just jacked out of my mind. I'm going to jump out of my seat. I want to kind of switch just a little bit, because this will help emphasize and edify exactly what Pascal is talking about: owning your decisions, saying, I screwed up, I need to make amends, I'm going to learn it, but in turn, I'm going to help other people. He mentioned this a little bit earlier on. And I'm grateful that he allowed me to go into this a little bit. We're going to be sensitive about it because of what happened. So you were married before, you had beautiful children, and you talked about when you sat across and we're talking with your previous wife, and you had to tell her you were having an affair. What relief did that present to you because of the lie that you are living?
The first thing I want to say is I didn't had to tell her, I decided to.
Mm.
And the decision, I made it for the release. Because
say that part again. I want you to really say that part again, because many of us, millions of people, need to hear what you just said. So start over with that point and then continue answering.
Sure. I didn't need to tell my wife back then that I have an affair. I decided to. It was a conscious decision, and I was thinking about it a lot, because even in front of my today wife, she knows I love my ex-wife. I love that woman back there, but it was a different kind of love. It was care. It was a deeper, like the human connection. I believe that we all come from the same place. And for many of your listeners, maybe it turns them off, but this is just how I see it, and I believe it. I believe we all come from the same place. We all, let's call it the light. Mm-hmm. We all have that light within us. That's what make us, that's what gives us life. We have that light. Now, what happens during life is we all have different experiences. We grow up in different neighborhoods. We grow up with different parents. We grow up with different social status. We grow up with pretty much everything is different for every human being. And what happened through these experiences, we all create these layers, all these different layers that build us and build the character. And years later, we have all these layers and masks, and we meet each other, two human beings. But what actually happened is layer face layer, or liar face liar. And this is how we interact with each other. We try to be someone. We try to be something. We try to prove something. We try to express ourselves the way we would like to be perceived and stuff like that. But what I try to do is, back then already, I try to oversee all these layers and connect with the light in the other human being, because I know it's there. And this helps me not to judge, because I know that all these layers are the result of how we grow up. And I can't judge people for how they grow up. And back then with my wife, I didn't give her any fault for doing what I did. I don't think and never thought it is right and fair what I did. But I had my own reasons why I did what I did. And I still respected my affair, my girlfriend back then, and my wife as human beings. And I decided not to judge. And what to come back to your questions, I decided to do that because I got tired of lying, tired of remembering things, tired of having that stress in all areas of my life. And I realized and felt it, that I live against my own core values every single day, because I knew in my heart, I'm honest, I'm fair, I treat people well. But one other quality that I have is take the self-responsibility. And I lived against all this stuff, and it got heavier and heavier. And I just decided, okay, I need to stop that. How do I stop that? With another lie? It's not possible. The only way is to tell the truth. And I decided to tell the truth to everybody, because it was no longer about anybody, but about myself. I know I cannot be the father I want to be for my kids if I keep lying. I knew that I cannot be the businessman and leader I want to be with keeping these lies and doing stuff hidden and try to lie and cheat. Like that whole structure or concept that I was living was not who I truly was. But like I said, I had reasons and I made decisions, and I just decided to do a clean slate, tell everybody how it is, tell my truth without any excuses, why I did from my perspective, with the knowing that nobody gonna understand me, or with the expectation that anybody gonna believe me. But I didn't care about anybody at this point, because I know if I care about everybody else, I keep doing what I do, and I didn't want to go on like that. So I decided to tell everybody the truth, and I was prepared to go my own way with anybody around me, be by myself and go alone. And that was more important for me, because I really was on a journey to find myself, to live my truth, to stand up for what I do and not do, for what I want and not want. And I just knew from that day on, I promised my kids, I'm never going to lie again. You can ask me anything you want. I'm going to tell you the truth. I told the same my ex-wife. I told the same my wife, my girlfriend back then. Ask me anything. I'm not going to lie, but think twice if you want to ask. And I was prepared to just say, okay, I don't care about anything. Those who respect my truth will stick with me. And those who push me away because of my truth, because of emotional pain that creates anger, frustration, they feel judged, they feel treated unfair. I understand and respect for all that. But if this is a reason to push me away, I'm fine. So that's why I did what I did, to just get that release off of my shoulders and start living my truth.
That the reason that is so important is because, as he described, the lying upon the lying, at some point there's a break, and you can't sleep, you can't eat. And I know this because of the conversations we had prior to this. It was that release of, I no longer need to live if I can't live this lie. I can't lie to myself, those that I love, trust, and respect. But more importantly, how can I, if I'm running a business, how can I be seen as a true and honest businessman if I'm doing this behind? It will always catch up. The lies will always catch up. Thank you. Thank you for that, because those of you that are in the same situation or thinking about it, listen to what he said. Own up, or we'll say man up, take responsibility. Go back to what we've said previous in this is, if I'm going to change, I have to make the change. I will change. Powerful. It's so powerful.
Maybe If I can add something to this, Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line, the learning for me was, and by the way, I took a mentor who supported me going through that phase, and I remember I made lists: wife, girlfriend, pros and cons, pros and cons, and then I make a third list: what do I want to be happy? And I started to compare and all that stuff. And I back then went to my mentor and said, Heinz, I made all these lists, and I mean, if I look at the list, it's clearly this and so on, but I'm still like have that feeling, and it's fear, and I don't know what to do. I feel like I still love my wife. I don't want to hurt her, but it's more like the sister, brother, human being. I care for you, and not, you know, the relationship of man and wife, how I see it, it should be. That feeling didn't exist. So I start to make this list and wanted to make a decision, and all these decisions were up here. And I remember how my mentor told me, Pascal, I think you made the decision long time ago. And it is not either one of these women or of any of these lists. The decision you made is the truth. It's not the woman. It's not a choice based on your head, what you think is right and wrong and better and all that stuff. The decision you made, you decided the truth. And back then I realized that could mean that I lose both. But the truth was more important for me than anything else. So that's the learning for me. It's about the truth, and not about people, not about business, not about things. It is about the truth, because the truth is something you live with every single day for the rest of your life. And that's what can enlighten you, that can motivate you, or it can destroy you. And that's why I'm very grateful for the decision I did. And yeah, it was part of my life. It is part of my life.
Wow, oh man, that was powerful. Thank you. Thank you for opening up that part of your life that, hey, people, look, you guys, you're going to listen to this and you're going to see this. You're going to judge how you want to judge. Pascal has come to peace. He's come to the learn. He said, it's the truth. The truth behind it is what I need. And the truth will set you free. And it has. And because of that, he's become the person he is today, full of light, full of truth, full of this joy that wants to help individuals become the best versions and find their own truth. I think is massive. Oh man, that's so good. So good. Let me ask this. How then, so you now you've lost your business. You had to come to your wife, tell her what was going on, your kids, everybody around you, they're going to judge you. How did the discipline, I want to go to this word discipline because you brought it up earlier. How did your discipline, as you moved up, guys, look, he was a world renowned fighter. This wasn't some guy in a basement that thought he could fight. He was a world renowned fighter. How did the discipline of you fighting help start you on your path, or get you to the path that you needed to be, and to just continue to move forward? How did you then start to really hone in on the word discipline?
I think you adopt it it just becomes part of who you are. If I remember back then when I went in this Taekwondo class, it was real, like it was the man, like the warrior, the world champion, the veteran, the guy who lived it all. He told a story how they celebrate Christmas in Vietnam with trees where they hang up hands and arms and stuff like that. and whiskey was your best friend. The guy went through everything that we can't imagine. And he was the teacher, he was the master, he was a true master. And I remember walking in there the first day, and those who, for your listeners who do martial arts, I remember I was sitting there and watching these black belts and some other people, and then I looked left, and the door went open from the building, and the person came in, and then the whole room I just hear very loud, like, and everybody just, and then they won, and it was just a black belt to enter the door, and that was the respect they're supposed to give for the achievements that person did. And then when they started, it was like really like in the army. It's like every movement from everybody was exactly to the same point, and the discipline in there was just phenomenal. And I was the opposite. Like I didn't listen to anybody, but going through this school, I knew exactly, like when you stand, you know, like you stand like this. He looked at little things. Here, is he really give, or is he just having his own? And he sees everything, and he come and you get punished, like punished if you don't. And this is how I learned it. This is how I learned it in sports. And because of that, I had achievements. And because of the achievements, I was motivated. I went on. So these little micro achievements created commitments, which created other achievements, which created more commitment. And I was just growing in that one area until I realized, and this is again, the master that we had, he always say, hey, the exact same way you train here, go out and live life. If you, like, it's a spring, your energy is a spring that brings fresh water every second of the day. If you don't use that fresh water, it's gonna get old, stinky, rotten. So use it. If you do it anyway, do it right. Do it 100%. And not just here when you train, but everywhere. If you study for school, do it 100%. You invest the time anyway. Why don't do it right? Because this is how you achieve things. And that's why I believe martial arts, a traditional martial arts school, not just like go beat each other up, but a traditional martial arts school is so beneficial to actually develop that discipline that many of our kids or generations don't have anymore, to show up, to get knocked down, to get back up. And martial arts, I believe it's just a wonderful way and where we can learn that and then transport that discipline into all areas of life. Because like I said in the beginning, you become that person. Discipline becomes part of your identity. It's who you are. But we need to learn it somehow and somewhere. And for me, it was I needed to have directions. I needed to have an authority. I needed to get punished in order to follow orders. I wouldn't listen. I didn't care. But there was that one person I knew, you better don't mess it up here. Yeah.
You need to understand something. When he was showing his arm punching, he was not only showing that his arm was straight, he was demonstrating, like you could tell he got right back into that zone of when he was a world top world fighter. His arm was what it was. You could see how the power in his arm, not just the power in his arm, but the power behind the discipline to make sure his arm looked, this fist, the clinch, everything was in line. And because of that discipline, you learn that he was able to say, okay, I need discipline. Discipline has two meanings, right? One is the negative, where you do something wrong, you get disciplined. The other meaning is you're disciplined to follow a pattern, to follow a step, to follow a process, to follow, this is where it goes, this is the next, this is the next. the entire conversation we've all been learning about the discipline that Pascal has built through the years and now is imparting to people. Discipline yourself. You got a porn problem? Discipline yourself enough to say, I don't need it. If you got a drinking problem, discipline yourself enough to say, this is not a weakness anymore. I'm going to build it as strength. If you got an anger issue, if you've got a self-doubt issue, find somebody who can give you that discipline. It is so okay to ask for help. It is so okay to get mentored by people who have been through the muck and are out, and find not a shortcut, but a shortened way for us to get from one step in front of the other. They always say the journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. I always say that step has to become from your thought process of, I am now going to change. Hell or high water, I am changing my life because it's up to me. Oh man, we could talk on this principle for hours and hours, but we gotta be respectful. I want to bring up one more point as we start to close down here. You did an interview. I want to quote this interview you did through Disrupt Magazine. It says, I learned early on that if you want your business to grow, you as a person need to grow. First, you do it. You prove it to yourself that you did the work. Then you teach and share your knowledge with others. Then you think and give back. One of my quotes that I've developed myself is, acquired knowledge is a must, but unshared knowledge is useless knowledge. How now, take us into what you're doing. It's been through this entire conversation, but what do you mean by, first, you've got to prove it to yourself that it works. Then you got to teach yourself how it does. And then you got to give thanks by giving back. How does that process go to somebody who just doesn't even know where to start?
I believe it starts with observing. Like, we all go through life. We all, and I'm not just talking about business, in life general. Like, so many. I was recently texting with someone on LinkedIn, and I asked her if she's interested to be published on Forbes, Entrepreneur Inc., and so on. And her answer was like, and she was maybe 55, 57. I don't have a story. And this is so wrong. Like, we all have a massive, inspiring story for someone. And we just need to understand that everything that we go through in all areas of life is knowledge for someone else who didn't experience what we experience, physically, emotionally, spiritually, doesn't matter in what area. But every experience that we make, we are one step ahead of someone else who didn't make it. And that's why I believe that we need to realize that all we experience is knowledge that can help someone. And if we start to put ourselves with that mindset into different situations and start to observe, and also start to ask ourselves, like, I just learned how to not do it. I tried the next way on how to do it, and eventually I'm going to have success. So I have a ton of material on where I can advise, where I can support, where I can guide. And I just believe that it is an obligation to share and give back, because we all want a perfect world. We all, at the end, doesn't matter who, every human being on the planet go for one thing. We all think and believe we go for success, we go for love, we go for like all these different things and ideas that we have. But the one thing we all go for, if we narrow it down, is fulfillment. We all want to be fulfilled. And how do we get there? Again, we need a plan. We need clarity, we need a plan, we need a strategy and all that stuff. But at the end, nothing is more fulfilling than to give. And as more as I give, as more I get back. And that's a principle that I never understood until I really started to give. And give doesn't mean like I give every homeless $100, because sometimes we need to be aware of where support is enough, help can harm. So we need to think twice, where is support enough? And what harm would help do in this case? Because to give someone money who's able to go and work, especially in the US, I can literally walk into every second store and get a job if I'm not too proud. How much does it help to give someone money who actually would be able to work? What difference can I make if I support in a different way that allows them to actually grow? Do I give them the fish? Do I show them how to fish? It's kind of that concept. But I believe that today, after helping so many people, it's just fulfilling to see success, fulfillment, happiness, love, joy, because we created a ripple effect. We help one person, it affects 10 other person, it affects another 10. And before we know it, we actually are the cause of millions of people through what we did or didn't do. So that's why I believe it's so important to watch our language, watch our thoughts. What do we say? How do we say it? From what place do we say it? The place of anger, the place of fear, the place of anxiety, or the place of love? It affects every thought and word that goes out here, affects people around us somehow, and it has a ripple effect. And that's why, again, I say it again, it's an obligation to share and give back. We need to realize that at the end, we are all one. Again, the light. We all come from the same place. We are all one. And I said that before, my outer experience is the expression of my inner state of being. And therefore, how would I treat my best friend, the one I come across before I go to bed in the bathroom when I cross the mirror? How would I treat that person? What do I think and believe about that person makes the difference in your life and therefore in the whole world.
Gosh, he said, watch your language, and I'm definitely going to watch my language. I know that's not what you mean, but good, holy, yeah. You know, the beauty of these is I get to go back before it comes out. I get to go back and listen to every gem and every knowledge drop that you just gave. It is literally going to change thousands and millions of lives. We have unpacked a man that has built companies and that has built in different industries, has mentored and been part of, thousands and thousands of lives, been interviewed by so many, and allowed us to open up and give us his story. Like he said, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to tell. And what I think is just so profound to understand. Man, Pascal, as we close, please tell us how people can reach out to you guys if you want to get a part of his project, his programs. How can we reach out? Have all the links here, have in the bios, not at 100%. Tell us how that we can reach out, where we can find you, and then also, when is your book coming out?
The book is planned to be ready in Q1 23. And the easiest way to find me is my personal website. It's more about business and life coaching. So I go into all areas, the core four that we mentioned before, which is pascalbachmann.com. And then the company where we do a lot of PR, we help entrepreneurs become authority number one in their niche with TV interviews, podcasts, and features in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and stuff like that, to really make the difference in the world, to be the authority and build the credibility and all that stuff. That company is called strategyachievers.com. And then, LinkedIn and Instagram, but all these informations are on my website, on my personal website.
Go there. Look, I've stalked this man digitally for quite some time. Just phenomenal content. It is unbelievable to find. As we wrap up, I always ask everybody this question before the books. If you were to see your 5-year-old self today, what do you think he would say to you?
If I would see my 5-year-old self, or
yep, if you were to see your 5-year-old self today, what do you think he would say to you?
Based on who I am today, I want to be like you when I grow up.
Wow, that's fantastic. That is a very profound answer. All right. Before we let you go, 5 books. Give me 5 books. We'll have your book and then 5 books.
5 books
that you would recommend someone to read. Business, personal development, spiritual, any kind of book. Just 5 books that you would say, hey, these are phenomenal.
One that I recommend definitely is, I just read it. It's from Ed Mylett, The Power of One More.
Mm.
I like Ed and what he writes and his perception. Then another one is The Masters of the Far East. It's more a spiritual book. Great stories, true stories. Then another one, the classic. I read that many years ago. I think it's from Brian Tracy, No Excuses.
Love it.
For business, strategy and purpose and stuff like that, I would say Start with Why from Simon Sinek. And then I just like spiritual books. I would probably go with the Course in Miracle, the Bible, something like that that you feel like there's a connection. I want to understand and know more, because how can I become that author? How can I play the main role in my own movie and to create that action plan and make the decisions, who I want to become, who I want to be, how much I want to earn, how many relationships I want to build, how I want to impact the world, how and why am I doing that, the clarity and all that stuff. It's literally a decision that we can make consciously. And even though we have a wrong belief system that is not beneficial or brings us to achieve those things, we can start writing down, how do we want to be, or how do we want it to be instead? And we can write that story. We can write it. This is how it is. This is how I actually want it to be. And once we have it, we can learn and start to believe in the new story. And as soon as we start to really believe it with the core of who we are, we're going to attract everything that allows us to live that reality. And it's so much about the mindset and the beliefs that we somehow think, this is how I grew up, because I experienced that thing, it must be the truth. It feels so real. And we cannot even judge anybody who have past experience and believe something, because for them it's not possible. Like I told that my kids when they were like 6-7 years old, I say, like, we went to church every Sunday and we read the Bible, and they have their kids' Bibles and stuff like that. And I told them, hey, if you would talk with a Buddhist boy now from Southeast Asia somewhere, and you would tell them about Jesus and God, they would probably think, are you crazy? What are you talking about? It's
Yep.
Buddha. Who's this Jesus guy? How can you even believe that stuff? This is how it is. So how can you judge someone who never heard something else? And because of experiences, this is the 100% belief. This is how it has to be. There's nothing else. And then to actually be open and always ask the question, or tell myself the question, what if? What if this is the truth? What if there is something on it? And to be coachable and just, again, not just follow, but think and take the self-responsibility to question things and just go and dive into other things. And this is how we learn and expand, and this is how we create new stories, and we learn how to believe in it. And then we face the reality of something that we thought it's absolutely impossible 5 years ago, based on the belief we had. There's definitely more than we think there is. And I believe to connect to that source and to realize along the journey that we all have God within us, and to access that part within us and connect to the source. It's a huge shift in all areas in life, and how we treat people, how we treat ourselves, how we treat pretty much everything that we come across. So I would say this: the power of one more, master of the Far East, no excuses, start with why, and the Bible or something that sort.
Oh my gosh, dang it, man. This is, I can't. I'm telling you, I told you, this is going to be a episode. You guys will go back and listen and take notes. The knowledge and the history of Mr. Pascal Bachmann is just phenomenal. It is awe-inspiring, it's touching, but more importantly, just wisdom upon wisdom. Don't doubt yourself, guys, because I can guarantee you, when people saw him in the orphanages and watching him do what he did, and the drugs, the gangs, the violence, the not listening, the undisciplined mind, to where he is today, they would have said, nah, there is no way on this beautiful earth that this man will ever achieve to greatness. I'm not talking about financially. I am talking about, he knows his purpose. He knows who he is. And through him, he will inspire and change the world. Unbelievable interview. Thank you so much for being on. Guys, continue to follow, like, share, subscribe, give it to somebody who needs the boost of their life. This is the episode that will change thousands and millions of people's. Guys, I love you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this project. Until next time, this has been a fantastic episode of the Arch Study of You. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you for having me.